You know that simple little search box you use probably a dozen times a day? Have you ever stopped to think about how it actually got there? It's this incredible story that doesn't start in some fancy high-tech lab, but in a messy college dorm room. So today, we're going to unpack the evolution of Google, a journey that really proves that even the biggest ideas can come from the absolute humblest of beginnings. And this, right here, is really the heart of the whole story. It's so easy to look at Google today, this massive force that pretty much shapes our entire world, and think it was all part of some grand plan. But it wasn't. It just started with a simple question, a problem that needed solving. And that set the stage for one of the most amazing stories in modern history. All right, let's jump in our time machine and go back to 1996. The scene is Stanford University. We've got two PhD students, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, and they're working on a research project together. Now, you gotta remember, they weren't trying to build a billion-dollar company. They were just two academics trying to solve a huge problem. How do you make any sense of this chaotic, messy, but rapidly growing thing called the World Wide Web? And their first attempt at this had, well, a pretty quirky name, Backrub. Yeah, Backrub. It sounds a little strange now, for sure, but the idea behind it was nothing short of revolutionary. It was the little seed that the entire Google search engine would eventually grow from. So here's what made their idea so brilliant. Before Backrub, search engines were kind of clumsy. All they did was count how many times a word appeared on a page. But Page and Brin thought, wait a minute, what if a page's importance comes from how many other pages link to it? It's like every link is a vote of confidence. This idea of backlinks was their absolute secret sauce. It changed everything. So by 1998, it was pretty clear that Backrub just wasn't going to cut it anymore. It didn't capture the massive scale of what they were trying to do. So they renamed it Google, which is a clever play on the mathematical term Google. And it was perfect, right? It symbolized their crazy ambition to organize a seemingly infinite amount of information. Okay, so they've got this killer new name, they've got this powerful idea. It was time to move out of the university. The next big step was to turn this academic project into a real, actual company. And that journey, as you've probably heard, famously began in a garage. Of course, to make that leap, you need money. That's when Andy Bechtolsheim, one of the co-founders of Sun Microsystems, saw what they were building and just got it. He wrote them a check for $100,000 right on the spot. I mean, that investment was the spark. It let them officially become a company and set up their very first office in a friend's garage in Menlo Park, California. Now, you have to picture the internet back then. It was full of these cluttered, slow search portals covered in ads. Google just stood out like a beacon. Their mission was so refreshingly simple. Give people fast, accurate results on a clean, super minimalist page. That focus on the user was a total game changer. And by 2000, millions of people had already made Google their homepage. But here's the billion-dollar question. How do you make money when your whole thing is being clean and simple? Well, the answer was AdWords, and it was pure genius because it wasn't intrusive. Instead of ugly banner ads, they just placed these simple, relevant text ads next to the search results. So you search for something, a business gets to connect with you, and boom, Google had this incredibly profitable model that didn't ruin the user experience. So with search pretty much conquered and a business model that was printing money, Google's ambition just exploded. They started to look beyond that little search bar and ask, what else? What other parts of our digital lives can we organize and make better? And then in 2004, they dropped Gmail. What was so disruptive? 1 gigabyte of free storage. Now that might not sound like a lot today, but back then, competitors were giving you a few megabytes. You were constantly deleting emails. This was unheard of. It completely changed what we expect from email. Forever. Then came Google Maps. I mean, what can you even say? It did for the physical world what the search engine did for the web. It put a live, searchable, interactive map of the entire planet right in our pockets. It totally changed how we explore, how we find our way, how we do, well, everything. And their foresight was just incredible. In 2006, they bought this small but super fast-growing video site called YouTube. They saw that online video was the future of content, and they bet big. That move cemented their dominance in a totally new field and made video accessible to literally billions of people. So, the web is conquered, video is conquered. What's the next frontier? Well, it was obvious, mobile. The smartphone was taking over, and Google knew they had to be at the very center of this new world. And their answer was Android. They launched it in 2008 as an open source operating system. What did that mean? It meant any company could use it to build a smartphone with Google's entire world of apps at its core. And look at it today. Android powers billions of devices around the globe. It's the most dominant mobile OS on the planet and an absolute cornerstone of the company's entire strategy. So, that brings us more or less to today. Google isn't just a web company anymore. It's evolved into the sprawling AI-first tech giant with ambitions that stretch way, way into the future. To handle all this growth and complexity, they made a huge move in 2015. They restructured the whole company under a new parent called Alphabet. It was a really smart idea. It lets them protect their main businesses like search and ads and Android, while giving their more experimental, wilder ideas the freedom to chase after these ambitious moonshot projects. And when we say moonshots, what are we really talking about? Well, think big. No, bigger than that. We're talking about self-driving cars with Waymo, trying to radically extend human life with Calico, pushing the absolute boundaries of AI with DeepMind, not to mention renewable energy and cloud computing. This is where Alphabet is placing its bets for the next 100 years. But you know what's fascinating? Even with all these crazy, futuristic projects, everything, and I mean everything, still ties back to that original mission statement. Whether it's answering a simple search, mapping a city, or training an AI, the goal is still the same: organize information and make it useful. And that leaves us with this one final, really big thought. For more than 2 decades, Google's whole reason for being has been to organize the world's information. As they get closer and closer to actually doing that, especially with the help of AI, it makes you wonder, what comes next? When that mission is complete, what's the next grand challenge? And that right there is the question that's going to define their future.